Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Empowered Hearts podcast. Today we have a special guest. Welcome, Jeremy Morrison, the owner of Kindred Pizza. Hello.
Thank you
Welcome,
guys. It's
Jeremy.
so nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So I'm going to give a brief little story of how I met Jeremy, and why I thought he would be an awesome guest on on this podcast. So Jason and I, my partner, Jason was like raving about this pizza place. Like we have to go have this pizza. And if anybody knows Jason on here, he is a foodie and like unless it's a 10 out of 10, we will not be eating it. So
It
he
was
had
high praise.
yeah, he had like done research and found your pizza and was like, we have to go. And I was like, okay. We get there, and Jason being Jason, who literally is a magnet for every human. Okay, like this is not abnormal. He just meets everyone. Um, Started talking to you, talking
Yep.
to Jeremy, and then I came and joined him because I was like, where is Jason? Like, why? Like, he's like not missing in the
And
bar.
you're just sitting
I'm
there
just
on
like,
your
what's
date.
going on? Like, it's normal.
That's
So
both of us. So I have a tendency to like talk way too much too. So I felt like I was holding when you came over, I felt like I was holding him over and I was like, I've done it again.
I was like, excuse me, boys. But anyways, then Jeremy said something randomly about how he started making this pizza to heal from PTSD, and my ears immediately perked. I was like, what? And I was like, oh my God, we need to have you on the podcast because, as listeners know, I'm a huge advocate for mental health. I work with mental health. I'm dealing with my own mental health. And so anytime I can hear somebody's story about how they went from point A to point B, especially regarding PTSD, my ears get really excited. So we're gonna talk to Jeremy today about, the challenges of PTSD, but more so how he came out on top and how he has now a freaking amazing business making literally the most amazing pizza I've
No,
ever
thank you.
fucking had in my life. Like
Well,
the
I- I'm sorry, but Kindred Pizza?
yeah.
Like the name of it? I have to fly down there and come here.
You are welcome. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you.
It's
We weren't
so
sure about the name for a very long time.
well, why don't you
I'm
tell me
obsessed.
why
Yeah,
how
tell
you
us.
came to
Yeah,
the name?
yeah.
It honestly, like, it's not. It's just. It's a really cliched answer. To be honest, is it like as humans, we have very little in common except for like we all have to die and we all eat food,
Yeah.
and so I don't think that there's much in the world that brings people together as much as food does.
Hmm.
Like food and music, I think would be the two big ones. But like food, I think is the most easily accessible one. And who doesn't like pizza? Really? So it really
Yeah.
just kind of like it really just was like a name that spoke to the connection that we wanted to create with people. Like exactly the thing that happened with you and Jay um, at the pop up was why it ended up being called Kindred. Like we just want to find like-minded, spirited individuals to share good food with, and that way it was yeah, just real simple.
Well,
I love it.
yeah, and it's like this thick, what would you call it? What is
It's
the
Detroit style pizza.
white style pizza? So it's thick, but it's not heavy, like it's light and fluffy.
Mm,
Honestly, 10 out of 10 best pizza I've ever had in my life. Like I was like, we need to get more. And Jason being like my personal trainer now is like, gotta cut it off. Gotta like it's like you can only have some of the bad stuff. And I was like, okay, but it's so good.
but carbs are comfort.
Yes.
And when you smell pizza, you want it.
Now
It's
I
just
want
got, yeah, exactly.
I made it light and fluffy so the trainers would forgive it a little bit
oh
more
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
than otherwise. Yeah. That was
beautiful.
intentional. That was intentional work.
It'll work. Okay, Jeremy, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about anything, we're not going to get into what happened regarding Jeremy's PTSD, just to be mindful of listeners and Jeremy and just the event. But anything you want to share about, back in 2016, there was an event,
Yep.
and how it changed your life.
Yeah, I mean there was a major event that I attribute most of the subsequent mental health issues to. But I do think it was a gradual thing that it came from a lot of separate events. I was a level paramedic in a level one trauma center in Florida,
Mhm.
and we received most of the major traumas, car crashes, bus crashes, everything that shooting, stabbings that come in. So you see rough things
Mhm.
daily
Hmm.
and things that are really difficult to deal with. And some of that stuff, it just never leaves you. And they tell you basically day one of school, right? They expressly warn you, if you do this and you follow through, you're gonna see some shit. And because everybody that's sitting in that room at that time kind of low key has like a savior and a god complex a little bit, which is why we're like, fuck no, not me. I'll be fine. I'll be fine the whole way through. And then the second you get into it, the second you're actually doing CPR on a human being, or you're seeing somebody that has a gunshot, you're like, oh right, this actually does kind of suck quite a bit to see this. This is not like the textbook at all. So all that stuff adds up, but there was one specific event in 2016 that definitely kind of altered. I mean, it altered my life, um, for better or for worse. For worse first, quite a bit. But yeah, I think a lot of things added up.
Yeah. Had you ever, prior to this event, or is it maybe like the subsequent events prior, ever experienced mental health? Like, what was your mindset prior versus latter?
I was, you know, I so um my grandfather committed suicide when I was 3.
Oh,
Um, I didn't really understand what that meant, obviously, until I was probably like 11 or 12. It was just a man that I had never known. So I had been like kind of maybe a bit more aware than most people were uh, as a teenager. Super outgoing, like theater kid, music kid. Um, but definitely had my moments of that, and every time I did, I kind of shunted back to thinking about my grandfather and tried to, I guess, push things down
hmm.
Mm.
a little bit. So it wasn't it, looking back now, I can say that there was probably more issues going on when I was a teenager than I thought when I was a
Mm.
teenager, but I think that's true of everybody.
Yeah.
Um, but nothing, nothing so much as it was the last kind of 10 years, certainly.
Yeah.
It was a pretty privileged, like I honestly, it was a pretty privileged upbringing. Like I grew up in Grimsby, it was upper middle class. My parents loved me. I always had what I wanted for Christmas. Like I really didn't have any reason to piss and moan.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, it can sometimes be the little things, right? But
Yeah.
um, how did your mindset, or rather your mental health, get affected from this? Like, if you could just share a little bit about, because I don't know if people really understand, like, unless you've been through it, understand the
Yeah.
gravity of what a traumatic event can do.
Yeah, it it felt like it all came at once a little bit. Like it was a few months after I was leaving my house and I was just going to go to like CVS or Walgreens, something innocuous like that. And my heart started like pounding through my chest. Like I felt like I was just gonna fall over immediately. Like I legitimately thought that I was dying.
Yeah.
And so I got in the car and I drove down the street to a little community hospital near where we lived in Hunters Creek. And they hooked me up to all the electrodes and it was fine. And I didn't really think much of it until it started happening more frequently. And I realized that every time that I was leaving the house or thought about leaving the house, that this was happening. And it was constantly like, if you know anything about the US healthcare system, you'll know that every one of those trips to the ER is insanely expensive to get hooked up to electrodes and all that. Um, and so I went to this incredible nurse practitioner. Her name is Michelle Roberts. If anybody's listening and knows her, she's incredible. Um, who basically was the first person since that who had taken time to talk to me and was like, "Yeah, I think you just have a little bit of anxiety and PTSD." And that was the first time that I had heard that.
Mm,
And the first instinct, of course, is like, not me. Not me,
right.
because I'm the healer, right? So it's not me that's gonna experience. I don't need to be healed.
Yeah.
And she gave me some medicine. We'll talk about that later because I have thoughts about that. But that was the first of it. And so I went home, and over the course of it, it was probably just like a week, honestly, I became physically afraid to leave my house.
Mhm.
And as that fear kind of grew, it was less about like going out. It was more like there's a lot of bad outside of my door.
Mhm.
I don't know what people are capable of now that I come across. I don't know what my own body is now capable of.
Right.
Like if this thing with my heart happens and I actually drop dead. So it was this really short span where I went from being the first person on the phone to be like, let's go do this, let's go do this, let's go do this, to be like, I'm not even answering my phone. I'm not leaving my house. I'm not getting up to turn my lights on. I'm just like, I am stationary. This is where I am. And that was it. It was a wild change.
Yeah.
Like from front to back, it was crazy how fast and how thoroughly everything changed.
Yeah. Did you just feel stuck?
Uh I felt stuck kind of in my own head a little bit,
Okay. Yeah.
where it was just like occasionally thoughts would creep in, be like, it's not as bad as you think it is out there,
Yeah.
but then the fear just takes it over and just washes, it's like a tsunami, just washes it away. And then you're right back on the couch, just like, shaking and having to take more of of like whatever medication you're on to do that. So it was honestly like, it was a little bit like being a prisoner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and it was nobody's, like, it was my doing, like I made myself a prisoner. But that's what it felt like. Like I was terrified to leave the house. Terrified.
So you
Like,
said,
and even now that has not gone away. Like even now there are
You
days.
still,
So like we're going to Oasis tonight. There's probably going to be 50,000 people there. The idea of that makes me physically uncomfortable. And
yeah.
like I'm better at dealing with that now. Like once I get into it, take a few deep breaths and learn that everything's fine. Everybody's there to have a good time. But right now, the thought of that terrifies me. So like that still very much stays with me sometimes.
um, you said medication. So,
Mm.
so when you realized, okay, this is mental health, I'm not actually there's not something physically, and I use quotations, wrong with me. What were your protocols? Like, what was your like, okay, I'm gonna get help trajectory? Like, what did you do to help yourself?
It was, I mean, that the nurse practitioner was super helpful in talking to me. But here's so I've been in a unique position to have experienced the US healthcare system and the Canadian healthcare system. Both of them are severely lacking, um, in mental health care,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so as far as like plans that were laid out, the honest answer, Morgan, is that there were none.
Yeah.
Because they just, the physicians and the nurse practitioners don't have the resources to put those plans in place in either country. And so you're consistently putting I always use the term putting a band-aid on a bullet hole.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
in this case, it was a lot of medication. So I started
Hmm.
on benzodiazepines, where it was just like I needed to take 2 grams of Xanax to even like get up off the couch and go and brush my teeth.
Yeah.
And then I needed to take another 2 milligrams to even hope that I was going to get an hour worth of sleep at night. And there was Seroquel, which is the worst medication um, in the world. When I started having, uh, for lack of a better term, like hallucinations or revisiting certain things that happened to me, they gave me Seroquel, which is an antipsychotic medication. Just I never felt worse in my life on
How did
that
it make
stuff.
you
But
feel,
the
that
Seroquel,
one? Yeah.
oh, it's I mean like you start by basically feeling the most intense seasickness you've ever felt in your life. Like it
Oh,
just throws off every bit of your body. And then your brain just honestly like it felt like my brain was constantly outside my body. Like I was never like I was thinking it was like sleep paralysis almost where like I'm could tell that I'm in a body, but I can't
yeah.
actually do anything with it. And
Mm.
when I brought this up to certain medical practitioners, they said, "Well, yeah, that's the kind of point of the medication." So I guess it works by default in as much as like you can't have psychotic episodes and you can't have hallucinations and you can't be anxious to leave the house if you physically can't move your body and always feel sick,
Right. Right.
right? So it's just a horrifying medication and I learned much later on just how bad it was and how much like um, people are trying to shy away from putting that on because it's a pretty extreme case. I guess I was more extreme than I thought I was in terms of like needing treatment, but um, yeah, it was just it was rough. And there's no so like we moved from Florida to BC first. And BC is a very unique situation where they won't give you mental health care unless you end up in an emergency department. And so many times through either me kind of like threatening or attempting to hurt myself or
Mm.
just being like so out of sorts mentally that I didn't know needed to be taken to an emergency department. And after that, they give you an appointment with a mental health practitioner, but it's a very temporary thing. They give you 2 appointments, 3 appointments, 4 appointments just to quote unquote stabilize you, aka like give you medication,
Yeah.
and then they send you out into the wild with no follow
Tools.
up.
Yeah.
There's no follow up from other doctors. There's no kind of like you can go here to get therapy. You can use this as a tool. It's just they send you out, and if you want to, like I checked myself into the hospital a number of times just so I could go back to see that doctor.
Oh my Lord. What is wrong with the systems?
Right. And so
So
that's it
messed
that's a
up.
huge and then in Florida, unfortunately, like despite the fact that Michelle did an extraordinary job of talking to me, there's only like her hands are tied with how
Right.
much she can do. And past that, there is nobody really to talk about unless you want to pay privately, and then there's waiting lists and I didn't have the kind of insurance that was going to let me blow, $2,000, $3,000 a month on mental health therapy.
Yeah.
Um, Few do have that money,
Right.
Yeah.
and this is part of why this mental health thing is endemic in itself or pandemic in itself. And just it's a really terrible kind of system to be in. So you're constantly just you're being medicated with no thought of getting better at all, and then it lures you into this sense of false security, right? Where the
Yeah.
medication some days makes you feel better. And so there were days when you look in the mirror and you think, hey, you know what? Today I'm feeling good. Today I'm better than I was yesterday. I'm way better than I was last week. So why don't we try and do this? And then you stop taking that medication and you realize that that whole fucking thing was a lie. It's just masquerading. Like you're not treating the
Right.
actual problem, you're just treating the symptoms of the problem.
Yeah, exactly right there.
And this is like this is kind of a mental health curse anywhere you go, is that the symptoms get treated, which is fine. Like I desperately needed the Xanax when I had it. I needed that medication. I wouldn't have
Yep.
been able to do remotely what I was doing without it. It's a useful medication, it's a useful tool to have. But like a screwdriver or a drill, it is just a tool. It does one single job. And people that were in my state, people that are in my state now, they need a full toolbox of things
Hmm.
to fix the problem, not just one. And as soon as you take away that tool, that one thing that was getting covered up, and that's all it was doing was just covering it up, is suddenly really prominent again, and you realize just how bad off you are, and you have literally no backup tools to work with.
That is really the premise why I asked you on the podcast, was because there is not, it is a toolbox, right? It's
Yep.
not just like medicate, like it irks me when people are like, well, I'm just going to take antidepressants and pills, and it's not the person's fault. It's how society and the systems push this as a solution. It's like, oh, well, just, if I remember a friend the other day was like, oh, I'm getting perimenopause and my doctor told me to take antidepressants. And it's like, what? Like it's just so backwards, and we are not like, I don't, the problem is even prior. It's like the doctors don't have the knowledge. The whole system doesn't have the knowledge, right? I've spent my whole life since I was 18, or so, yeah, 18 years old. I've been on this quest of healing derealization because I have, I don't want to say permanent, but it feels like a permanent case of derealization since I was 14. And I've been on a quest since I was 18 to heal my CPTSD, because it's like you said, I was just like, here, take these meds. And it's like, okay, but now what? And then there was
Yep.
talk therapy. And I was just like, okay, but that's like another, like that actually I found makes things worse. It's like, what are we now? We're just talking about how screwed up I am. Okay, great. Now what? Like, what do you do? Like, there's the mind, the body, the soul, the nervous system. There's so many compartments to this whole healing journey. And like, it is a personal journey for me to really help people heal, because I was never given the tools either, right?
Hmm.
No,
Um,
and it's funny because like, even I mean, I've been on it in the emergency department, like working. The doctors that are working there don't have the tools, right? You see a lot of mental health cases come through, and God bless our physicians in Florida at both South Seminole and ORMC. Uh, would see those, daily, especially at South Seminole when I worked over at South Seminole. It's kind of right in the middle of a kind of an area where a lot of people that are homeless, kind of, and with drug issues and mental health issues. So you see a lot of them come through, and the doctors just don't have the tools at their disposal, nor do they have the knowledge, right? Psychology and psychiatry is such a small part of the education system. That's why
Hmm.
it's a specialty unto itself. And so when these people come in, it's often the same thing. Like they're given some kind of drug, whether it's a benzodiazepine or an antipsychotic or an antidepressant or whatsoever, maybe a script for a dozen more of whatever, and then they're sent out into the world because one, you can't waste a resource, an already, like, there's a fleeting amount of beds in the hospital to begin with, so you can't house them up because the person in the next room needs it more, or at least that's the mentality, right? And so
Yeah.
like they're given the drugs and they're sent on their way, and so like the tools just don't exist
yeah.
to help them. And the few that are there, I just don't think that a lot of doctors like have access to them, or even like they're so doctors and nurses are so overtaxed in both the US and in Canada, um that honestly like they don't have the time to figure it out on the spot either,
Yeah,
which
that is
is
very
also a
true.
huge problem,
Hmm.
right? Even the doctors that go above and beyond for patients, they don't have half an hour a day to call around for referrals and figure out where they're supposed to send these people off to.
Yeah.
And so it's, drugs and good luck to you
Yeah. And then when you try to call and get in, it's 6 weeks, 2 months down the road.
at best.
Yeah.
So what were some of, or are some of the tools that like, so let's say you were in this stage of taking pills and feeling okay and then not feeling okay. Like what did you then do to help yourself? And what
Yeah.
were some of the tools you use?
It was honestly, I attribute a lot of like where I'm at right now to my friends and family.
Mm.
Um, and it was a lot of it was people just taking a minute to sit down and be like, how are you?
Yeah.
But then actually listening to the answer
Yeah.
and responding to the answer, not just waiting for me to finish talking so they could contribute their own life experience or whatever else. But actually like listening to it and kind of slowly realizing that, okay, I'm not as alone as I think that I am here. Um, BC was great. I think that where I'm at now, like being in British Columbia was better for me than being in Florida. There was a lot more like open spaces where I could get out and kind of still be alone.
Hmm.
Um, which was like helpful that I wasn't immediately like thrust into giant crowds and
Yeah.
um so that like that really that really helped, but there was a lot of kindness from strangers, and the dough making process was
Mm.
the thing that, honest to God, it sounds crazy, um but like it was never done. I didn't start making dough as a means to heal. It just so happened that that's the thing that worked for me. We managed to go to a place. There's a phenomenal pizzeria in British Columbia called AJ's Brooklyn Pizzeria, and we went there for dinner once, and I think that they had just gotten back from a trip to Detroit or a convention or something, and the owner, whose name is AJ, um, had just kind of figured out about Detroit style pizza, and he had started making it, and we tried it there, and single-handedly the most important bite of food that I've ever taken in my life. And maybe, considering what was going on, one of like, crazy that a bite of food can do this, but maybe one of the most pivotal moments of my entire life as well was biting into that and being like, this is fucking delicious. Like, I need to figure this shit out. And it was like the next day I was buying yeast and I was buying flour and trying to figure it out. And it was terrible. Oh my God, it was so bad. It was so bad. But I was making dough and throwing it out and making dough and throwing it out. And sometimes I would do that 4 or 5 times a day. And I was every day I was like making something, I was journaling like temperatures and what was happening and reading every book on it. And it was the only thing that I could do where I was fully immersed in the experience.
Right.
There was nothing else. It was, my brain was silent for the first
Mm.
time in years, where it was just like, okay, now you need to do this. Now it was so focused. And then it just turned out that like it was a lot of fun, and it was getting to a point gradually where it was like okay enough for me to share it with people. And
Hmm.
then you get those, people being like, oh, it's really good, but you think they're kind of like coddling you like a baby a
Yeah.
little bit, where they're like, no, it's really good, sweetie. And so then the anxiety starts to kick back in, and you're like, wait, is it? Are you being serious right now? So you start sharing it with people, and that's kind of how that started. Was just like, and that's what, like, when I say that the dough from like front to back has been nearly like a 10-year journey, it literally has been, because there's been more days than not where it's all I did was stand in the kitchen and make dough and throw it out and make dough and throw it out and make dough and throw it out. And when I started getting
Mhm.
out of sorts, when I started getting anxious and out of sorts, I would literally just think about dough. And like it was just like I would think about like, okay, what was the last batch of dough? What did that turn out like? What can I change? And I would start writing it down. And then before long, the anxiety kind of like filtered away a little bit. And I just kind of like found my niche.
It's like a healthy control, right? It's like
Yeah.
you didn't even realize, like you didn't have control over your life, over how you felt. You had control over this thing, but it like happened naturally.
I honestly think, I mean, it's a really good way to put it. I honestly do think that it was a little bit about control.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um, and it wasn't like it wasn't anything like I would have actively thought about at the time,
Right.
right? But there was so much that I wasn't controlling about my life and about what, like, I couldn't even control the thoughts that were coming into my head.
Hmm.
I couldn't control like what kind of mood I was going to be in every day, but I could play that dough like a violin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like I was like, it sounds very weird to talk about because it's just dough, right? But like it was like the first time that I was like finding some level of some semblance of like control in my life again. Like I was bringing things back.
Yeah. And it gave you the opportunity to be able to choose that.
Yeah, yeah,
So if you chose the dough and you chose working with the dough, then you're choosing that part of like where you're flowing your
yeah.
energy to.
And
It
it
actually
was
sounds,
obviously like a lot of luck, right? Because if it hadn't have been for the fact that I was feeling okay enough that day to go to a pizzeria and get
Yeah.
dinner, and if it hadn't been for the fact that like the owners just started introducing Detroit style pizza there, and it wasn't, for the fact that like we decided to stray from the norm and try that, like it just a lot of luck was involved in
It
that,
was like
which I it
I
was
don't,
so
kismet.
I know.
it's
I'm
not,
like,
I don't
that was
call it luck.
divinely aligned for you.
Yeah,
It just
it
so
really
happened
was.
to be that day.
It really was. And like I'm not a religious person at all, but like there's a certain amount of like spirituality, and when I think about that,
Yeah.
and I think about how many little tiny things needed to be aligned for that exact moment to happen.
Yeah.
And again, it sounds wildly out of place because like we're talking about pizza, right? Like we're just talking about pizza. And but how important something as small as pizza can be.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because I'm putting all the pieces together now, and you say that it's the people that you had in your circle that helped you, in your one of the hardest times of your life. And that's what like food and people do,
Yeah, exactly that.
like they come together in that. And that's what happens in your restaurant. People come together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that, I mean, that's exactly the kind of vibe that we're going for.
Yeah.
Is we want to be like, if you're having a shitty day, we want to be the place where you can come
Hmm.
and know that like there's no judgment here. You're gonna get good food. You're gonna be met with good company. You're gonna be met with like a shoulder to cry on if that's what you need. Like
Yeah.
it's just like it's like it's your place. So it's very much the vibe we're going for or trying to
It's
cultivate.
Well, I mean, if you look at it from a wider lens, like it is a higher purpose rather, it's not just pizza, right? It's the
yeah.
wider lens of everything you just shared. It's,
Yeah.
maybe, often our purpose and how we help others is from a wider lens. It's not just here, eat my good pizza that happens to be really good. It's the whole ambiance, it's the whole energy and the whole story behind it that has given a place for people to come and have this,
Hmm.
and so that is like the divine purpose behind it. And you, whether you realize it or not, from mine and Krystle's perspective, it was a calling that you needed to answer and it just aligned. And that's how the universe works. It will literally align everything so perfectly.
Yeah.
If something's meant for you, you can't miss it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So if
it's
And
it
coming.
wasn't that day, it would have worked because if this
Yeah.
was meant for you, it would have happened.
I certainly like I certainly again I don't take for granted like just how many tiny bits and pieces needed to fall exactly into the right spot to make that work.
Yeah.
Because if it hadn't been for that, I never would have
I
known. I
think that
never would
it,
like. So go on, Krystle.
I was just gonna say, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was gonna say, I think that just this entire journey and your ability to see things like so clearly from the point of being on medication and being like, this just kind of all feels like a big lie because it's not like actually treating the root of where this is coming from to all these events unfolding the way that it has so that you could get to a place where you could, function and live.
Yeah, and that's really I mean that's really what it did. And my heart honestly bleeds for um people that are suffering the same that haven't
Hmm.
found kind of their thing yet. But like it takes a ton of work and it takes a ton of searching, and honest to God, sometimes it's just luck.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
sometimes you just luck into something. Um, but like for anybody that's listening that's on the downside of that advantage, um, like keep searching and look around, like root around in the sandbox
Yeah.
Yeah.
and dig around and look at things that you you wouldn't necessarily have looked at otherwise, because something is there. Like I
Yeah.
promise something is there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like it might not be easy to find. You might stumble upon it when you are least expecting it, like I did, but it's absolutely there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does exist. Like the
Hmm.
person you were before the darkness is still in there. They're just clouded. And like
Hmm.
you can find that light and walk out of it. It just takes a little bit of searching around in the fog to get there.
Yeah. So true.
That is really well said.
Yeah.
But
So
it is
true.
something like, we try to, I mean, just with meeting Jay and Morgan, they're like we do our best to try and like foster connections with people. Um, because I do think there's a little bit of like there in this, I don't want to sound arrogant. I think there's a little bit of therapeutic value in food a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think when
Yeah.
people know that they can go somewhere, so like I don't make the best pizza in the world, but I make good pizza. I make really good pizza. And I think like when you combine that with an environment where people feel welcome, I think there is a therapeutic value to that.
Yes.
Where if it's something where it's just like, you had a bad day, whether it's just something as simple as like, you got cut off on your way to work and that ruined your mood, or something like you
Mhm.
spilled coffee on your pants or whatever it is, or something much deeper, like you come and get good food in an environment where you feel comfortable. I mean, that can really make a difference in somebody's existence. So just
Yeah.
trying to like foster those connections and talk to people where they feel comfortable coming in and knowing that this is like, lack of a better term, a safe space where they can just come and be themselves and hang out and eat good food and
Hmm.
talk is, I mean, what's better than that?
And I
Yeah.
mean, food, unless it can be, of course, food can be used to an extreme, but like food really does spark your dopamine. And when you are down and
Yeah.
out, like having that, like, 'cause sometimes food isn't even enjoyable. Like if you're in a depressive
Yeah.
episode or moving through PTSD, like food cannot feel even delicious. So to even to provide that and even in the moment of it can feel good is really important. Like it really, for me especially, it's been something I've leaned into, and not in
Yeah.
an unhealthy way, but using food to jolt my dopamine and serotonin. It's like, oh, there is joy. Like there is this,
Yeah.
even the moment of just like biting into food and
Hmm.
being like, oh my God, this is so good. It's like you were saying, like you remember your light.
Yeah. Ice cream is that way for me sometimes.
Yeah.
Like
Hmm.
that's usually my no a very common kind of sad guy food, but that's one to me where like good ice cream is just like, oh my God, everything is right with the world
Yeah.
when you have that. So like try and contribute to that, you know, a little bit um makes us feel like I think that we're doing something worthwhile at least.
And
Yeah.
something for you, like it's something
Yeah. Yeah,
for
yeah.
you that in that moment feels good. Even if it's
And
just a moment.
but it's just that like every time we make a pizza, there's a certain amount of anxiety that goes to like, and Morgan, I mentioned this to you and Jay there is when you guys came over, you had a lot of kind words, and I said this exact thing to you was like every time, because it was such a deeply personal journey, every time I give a pizza out, there's a spark of anxiety in my, it's like, oh my God, is this good enough to give to them? And
Yeah.
it's like with everybody is this, and once they come back, that's that dopamine rush that you get where you're like, it goes away pretty fast, where you're like on like the second the next pizza comes out, you're like right back to square one again. But
Yeah.
for the moment, those little things, you're just kind of baby stepping forward.
Well,
I think that that's common for everyone who kind of has their own business and they're offering something to the world. It's like, is this going to make a difference in this person's life? Like, is this good enough?
Well, Krystle, you
There's
and I
just,
both move through that. Every time I have a new
we
client,
do.
like,
Yeah.
is this gonna work? Like, how is they're
Yeah.
going to receive this? And I freak out, and then we get into it, and I'm like, all right. So I do think it because it is so deeply personal. All three of us work in something that is very deeply personal to us.
Yeah.
So I think that just goes to show like the level of care that's behind it.
Yeah, and it's
Absolutely.
it's one of those mentalities where, my wife Danica often says like you need to stop worrying about that kind of stuff. And my response is always like, I'll never stop worrying about that, because the second I stop worrying about that, why even bother trying to make it anymore?
It's true.
Like this is stuff like
Yeah.
everybody has the ability to cook food for themselves at home. If you're coming to me and spending your hard-earned money, I need to give you my best.
Yeah.
And if I think for a moment that I've kind of like plateaued, where people come and they're like, oh my God, this is perfect. I'm like, no, it's not perfect at all. Like, because perfection is like stagnant, right? And then once something's perfect, it gets really boring and there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And like, it's great for the moment, but it's after that, it's just like, okay, I've reached the pinnacle. Where is there to go here? Literally only down, right? It's like climbing a mountain. You get to the summit of the mountain, and this is great. The view's awesome, but I literally only have one place to go.
Yeah.
And so I'll never get rid of that mentality because it keeps me pushing forward,
Right.
which
Yeah.
is as much for me as it is for the quality of food that we want to put out for people. Because everybody that's coming to spend their money deserves the best that I can give them in that exact moment that they're there.
Yeah.
Mm,
This sort of leads into the next thing I want to ask you is can you share, I mean, aside from what you just shared, which is amazing, um, some wisdom that you've learned along this journey of yours?
I think the biggest one is kind of, we touched on it a little bit, was just to kind of appreciate um little moments more, and those connections that you make with people. We move through life really quickly, and most interactions that we have with people are very, very short, and then they're done, and you never see them again, you never hear about them again, whether it's buying coffee or somebody that cuts you off in traffic or whatever the case is. and it's to appreciate those moments more and judge less, and
Mm,
because we generally only get like a snapshot, right, of what somebody else's life is like. So somebody comes in and buys a pizza and maybe they're not friendly, they're short with you or whatever else. It's really easy and really natural for me to turn around and be like, oh my God, that person was a dick.
mhm.
Right. So, but like, what am I basing that on? Literally, like a 1 second snippet of this person's 40-year existence.
Yeah.
Like, that's absurd that we do
Yeah.
that as humans. It's absurd that we do that as humans. And so part of my appreciation now is to judge those moments less and recognize the fact that, like, we really do, like, everybody's got their own story and everybody's got a lot of history and everybody's lived a lot of days, and in those days have seen a lot of shit,
Hmm.
and that not everybody's going to be happy all the time. And
Yeah.
so there's a lot more forgiveness that um I give to people when they're not at their best,
Yeah.
because a lot of it was given to me when I wasn't at my best. Like when I was down and I was being awful and I was like, like lashing out um because I didn't know where to place my anger. A lot of forgiveness was given to me by friends and family. And it would be like a kick in their ass if I didn't offer that to somebody else. And it took a long time. It took a long time to get to that point
Hmm.
where I understood that better. But like that ability to be kind is like it's easier. Like it's easier to be nice to people, and it's easier to be kind to people, and it's easier to be forgiving to people. And honest to goodness, it's like free therapy, right?
Hmm.
Like when you're nice to somebody else, when you know that you did something kind of above what you needed to do, or just something that another human being would, even if it's something as simple as like opening a door
Yeah.
for somebody, or like not flipping the bird if somebody cuts you off in traffic, or not judging somebody or whatever else, like that
Hmm.
feels good to do that. You kind of feel like, oh, I'm growing emotionally and
Yeah.
intellectually
So
a
true.
little bit. So like that level of like being kind is kind of like free therapy for you a little bit, to not look at everything so negatively. And it goes back to like, you start judging people based on these little like snapshots that you have, you're automatically putting yourself in a negative space,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? And you might think that this negativity is all pushed outward towards somebody else, but like you're bottling that up inside. That energy is in you. Like you're
Hmm.
that's what you're putting out into the world, and it's ultimately what you're going to get back, right? So like
Hmm.
it's super free therapy to just be kind
Yeah. So
to
true.
people. And so I think a lot of what I've learned goes back to that, is just to like, I guess in a nutshell, enjoy interactions better.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Just like
Hmm.
appreciate those more than I do.
Yeah. I think also when you and I spoke on the phone, I think you also mentioned really about like slowing down and being present, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely like, I had a tendency to like speed run a lot of stuff just to get it over and done with, but being able to take a deep breath and like look at the moment you're in, and just like, I'll go back to meeting you guys at the brewery. That's a prime example of kind of everything that we're talking about, where like I can look at that from an outside perspective and I'd be like, this is fucking awesome. Like I've just met these two people who are essentially strangers, for nothing else, but we're having this like deep and meaningful thing. And like I can have this conversation and just kind of like slow it down and look at it from an outside perspective and just enjoy it more.
Hmm.
And I think that's a really nice way to live, is just slowing yourself down to like a crawl.
Yeah.
And whatever moment you're in, um just kind of love it
Yeah.
a little bit more than you do, because you don't have a lot of them.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to get kind of washed away in like minutia and like what you're angry about and what you're anxious about, and then you miss the thing that's right in front of you that might very well be the thing that kind of turns your day around.
So true.
This
I
is me.
love that.
No, I'm sorry. I'm like, can't keep my shit together over here. What you're saying is just it deeply hits my heart, and it's a nice, I don't want to say reality check, but maybe like it's just an, or maybe the word I'm,
Perspective.
it's just a really nice reminder that, really what you said about enjoying the moment you're in, like even if the moment you're in is shit, it's just like be in it fully, enjoy the moment you're in. Yeah.
I agree, and I think it's a really good, and it goes back to kind of the hospital stuff. Is that maybe if I had taken a moment to be present there, maybe that would have helped some later on. Like it certainly helps you process things a little bit better when you slow things down
Hmm.
a little bit,
Hmm.
and it also gives you time to just, I don't know, think with a little bit more logic about what you're doing and what you're saying and how you're acting and how you're being, right? It gives you a moment to kind of choose to do the right thing and not the natural thing. Like so many of us go into like meetings with people and experiences and stuff like that looking for reasons to like be scared and looking for reasons to like hate the experience. And that's just a very odd thing for me to
Yeah.
think about now. I think if you just switch that right on its head and just go into everything like it's going to be positive, like they're not all going to be wins. Obviously, they're not all going to be wins. But if you go into it um, with a little bit more optimism, I think you'll find more victories than losses in those little
Mm,
moments. Like even if the whole experience sucks, there's going to be something there you can take as a learning experience and
yeah.
walk away. And you don't get that if you rush through them like that. If you don't slow yourself down, just to like, it takes no time to just think about what you're doing when you're doing it.
Yeah. I mean, something
Mm,
I've been actually guided to do lately is journal at night, but not about my day. Because if I journal about my day from my perspective of the day, I'm going to write how I feel, what is wrong, how everything's terrible right now, how PTSD has ruined my life, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I was guided to journal about, it's called Good Days, Good Memories. So the only thing, and it's not like bypassing my human experience, but it's I have to search at night, go throughout my day and go, okay, well, what went right? And that's literally the only thing I'm allowed like that I write down is I upped my weight at the gym 5 pounds. If I didn't do this, I wouldn't even have clocked that as a win, right?
mhm.
And finding this is helping me retrain my focus from I'm experiencing PTSD and everything's terrible and nothing's ever going to be better to, well, wait, but this actually happened and this actually happened and these positive things. And it really does like reinforce your thinking from
Totally does.
seeing everything so negatively to, well, like, because I would have bypassed all of these positive experiences that are happening. And it's natural, like there's no blame here. And when you are wearing such a dark cloud, it is really hard to see positives. And I don't think it's any it's not shame on any of us. It's what happens,
Yeah.
but you have to actively fight out of that.
I think that's, I mean, spot on. I think if I went back through the last bunch of years, um, and thought like really hard about it, I wonder, like you said, like how many of those good moments I would have missed that would have turned my day around, because probably a whole mess of them. Because
Yeah.
like you said, the instant thought process is like everything sucks, today is
Hmm.
terrible,
Hmm.
I'm in a bad place, I'm never going to get out of it. But now on this side of it, I'm like, I wasn't even fucking like looking for ways to get out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just there.
Right.
And that was it. And whether that was like, again, no fault, right? Because like I don't know if that was, it clearly wasn't like an active decision that I was making to be miserable. I didn't want that.
Yeah.
um it was, whatever nonsense was happening up here that was like chaos up here. But it was just like slowing down. If I had slowed down just for a second and just thought about one nice thing,
Yeah.
that could have made a world of difference. It really could have made a world of difference. And so I probably just like you missed a ton of those opportunities.
Yeah.
I think when if you're in it and you're not looking to get out of it, that can also be the point of alchemy, because when you're in a place and you're like, oh, like I really hate this place that I'm in, I just don't want to be here, that can sometimes create more resistance,
Yeah.
because you're resisting where you are.
Yeah. You're
And that,
fighting
and
against yourself and the situation.
exactly, and it can just keep you there.
Yeah. And does.
It,
It
it
does.
and it's like there again, I don't think it's really a fault. I think it's like
No.
it it's very understandable.
Yeah.
And you can't meet it with more resistance. You have to meet it with like, how can I just open like the window a crack to change the perspective? You're not going to change the
Yeah.
situation. You're not going to change how you feel. You're not going to change what's happening. And like, just forget about that for a moment, just do something else. And like with
Yeah.
you go with
Hmm.
right? Like you opened up creation. You didn't change what you were in. It was like acceptance without even realizing it, and then finding something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm
And
gonna
there's,
fix myself. It was just shift.
Yeah.
I think the acceptance is a really big deal there, to just kind of like, you spend a lot of time just kind of fighting against yourself, right? Like my brain is fighting against me right now, my body is fighting against me right now. And then, I'm actively not trying to do anything to counter that at all. I think that acceptance that like this is the situation I'm in,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
this is like nothing is going to change that. Like this is where I am, can't go back now. But what can I do to kind of, I think it's like the A mentality, like the first step is admitting you have a problem, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to accept that, and just and like that, the only part of that that I really agree with is that is like I can't fix myself until I admit that I have a problem. Like way back, I was I don't remember a lot of this, so forgive me. But we're in Florida, and I know that I had been like threatening my own life in some capacity. I think it was relatively serious, and somebody had told my parents, and it was bad enough that they hopped on a plane right away. And obviously, my dad, whose dad committed suicide, is more acutely like aware of this stuff and affected by it. They flew down and talked to me, and it was, I remember talking in the lobby of the Marriott World Center outside of Disney World. And like I remember looking around at everything except for my dad, who was sitting right across from me, and I was still hearing the words that he was saying, where he was like, I lost my dad, I'm not going to lose my son too, and like you've got a problem and you need to get fucking help,
Yeah.
like figure it out. And something in that moment was like, holy shit, like I actually, this is really serious. Like I
Yeah.
Yeah.
actually do have a problem here.
Right.
And that goes to that acceptance thing too, is like once
Hmm.
you can accept that, I think you still fight against it, but not as much. Like
Hmm.
it opens you up to like let the Morgan, those things that you're talking about inside, right? So you can kind of like not perfectly, but better assess like situations. But that was honestly the first step, was like, oh shit, okay, this is serious now. Like, my dad just got on a plane and flew down here to kick me in the ass to make sure that I get to help, because like the outcome was going to be pretty dark otherwise.
Yeah.
And very, it almost was. Um, so just that kind of like realization, where I didn't even have to say it outwardly. It was just like going home and sitting down and just staring at a wall and being like, this is a problem. And this is a problem that I cannot fix by myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can keep like resisting everything, and I can keep resisting everybody, but then I'm going to end up dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, is that what I want? Like, do I want to
Yeah.
like just depart the world in its entirety? And the answer is, of course, no. So what the fuck am I going to do to figure this shit out?
Yeah. Yeah.
And just
Yep.
the little, like those little battles that you stop fighting with yourself can start opening the door,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? To let other people in, to let other people's advice in, to let, just better ideas come into your head, more positive thoughts come into your head. So like, that's a really big deal. And I would encourage anybody that's kind of suffering the same out there to like take a hard minute, go into the bathroom and stare at yourself in the mirror and just ask yourself, like, what do you want the outcome to be here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you're like us, and you're in that headspace, there's a very clear end to this for the worse, right?
Hmm.
And that's nobody wants that.
Yeah.
So just like tell yourself like tell yourself that you have a problem,
Yep.
because that's perfectly okay to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, look at yourself in the eyes in the mirror and be like, you are fucked up, get help.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then you go on the lifetime's journey of trying to figure out what that help looks like.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's not like I'm better now, but I'm not cured.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'll never be back to who I was in 2014 even, right?
Yeah.
It's just kind of like an evolved version of me that I have to take like the best of what I've learned now and mix it with the best of what I learned then. But it was all just kind of like, thankfully that my wife called my dad and he got on an airplane, and I was able to just be like, oh, okay, this is serious.
Yeah.
But not everybody's going to have that luxury. So I just would encourage everybody to kind of look at themselves however they need to look at themselves, and figure out, you don't even need to know what the problem is. You just need to
Yeah.
know that you have one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you can get to the root of everything else.
Yeah. Jeremy, this has been wonderful and I think so enlightening and personally so emotional for me. And thank you.
Yeah.
I would love if you could share, so we're in Ontario. Krystle's actually in BC. So I love that you have roots to there as well. But if you, I know that you're in transition right now of where you are putting roots down here for your business, but if you could just share, and I can always share your Instagram in the show notes, but just a little bit about your business and how people can find you right currently.
Yeah, the best way to find us right now is just to go on Instagram,
Okay.
at Kindred Pizza. Like you said, we're in transition. We had a kind of a residency, we'll say, at the brewery in Markham.
Mhm.
And we've opted to, my business partner Sam and I have opted to kind of spread our wings,
Hmm.
much to the dismay of a lot of people in my Instagram inbox right now. Um, but we're looking at a few different options, including our own brick and mortar space.
Oh,
So
Hmm.
we're looking at some real estate, and we went out to Brantford this last week to Crown Veritas, who makes incredible ovens. We got to demo an oven that we can take to festivals and catering and stuff with us right now.
Amazing.
So it's like we were talking about, Sam and I are taking a moment to kind of slow down after a very
mhm.
busy year, and really, really think about what the best next step is for Kindred and for the business. It wasn't, we felt like we were kind of not being as good as we could be in the brewery. Like it was a really fun space, and we will cherish that forever because we met incredible people. Um, but it was just like it was kind of holding us back a little bit in terms of like what we wanted to do creatively and what we wanted to do in terms of having like a space that's uniquely our space.
Yeah.
And so we're looking around, and that will all be announced when we figure it out on Instagram.
Okay.
We if people want to reach out to us, they can DM us. I manage the account. I always answer everything that's ever sent there. Or they can reach out to kindredpizza@gmail.com
Okay.
if they have any requests or anything like that. And that's probably the best way to get in touch with us right now. And we'll go forward and figure it out and let everybody know as soon as we know what the next step for Kindred is.
Awesome. Jeremy, thank you so much. This is
Bless you guys. Thank you for having me. It was what a
Mm.
cool experience. Thank you both.
Thank you for sharing your story with us.
Oh, this has been a real treat.
okay, guys. We will see you next time.